Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we are taking a look and installing the Stealth Hitch rack receiver on a 2024 Audi A5. And this is going to be a great option for something like this vehicle where you may want to bring a bike rack along or load up a cargo carrier to get some more space. But when you're not using it, you don't have to worry about this receiver tube hanging out. You can simply remove that and go back to a completely OEM stock look. So let's take a closer look at it. So first and foremost, I mentioned that this is a rack receiver, not a trailer hitch, because there's two different options for a kit for your Audi. And the first one is going to be the rack receiver, and that's what we did today, which is going to be perfect for something like a bike rack or a cargo carrier. But if you plan on pulling a small trailer with this, you're going to need to pick up the towing kit, which is going to give you all the wiring necessary to be able to get it installed, as well as a ball mount that's fixed. So this, you do not want to put a ball mount in. You do not want to tow with this. This is truly just for accessories. And again, if you're planning on towing the trailer, get that tow kit. But looking at the receiver, this is going to be a 2" by 2". So it's really nice because that's kind of the standard size for a lot of different accessories, and you'll have plenty of options available. What's also nice is it does stick out quite a bit, which takes away from the look. But again, we can remove this when we're not using it. So this keeps it to where really all of your accessories shouldn't have any issues with making contact with the vehicle. And all of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. Now this is not included with the rack receiver kit. So that is something you may want to look for when choosing accessories, or you can pick up a pin and clip here at eTrailer. Now, with the nature of the pin being pretty far out, almost flush with the edge of the fascia, if you're picking up a folding bike rack or cargo carrier, I don't worry too much that you're going to have issues with that being able to stow vertically. So that's really nice. Something else that you're going to want to follow, weight capacities. So this one is rated at 350 pounds of tongue weight. So with that, you could get a 4-bike rack on here, depending on the weight of the bikes. Just kind of keep that in mind that you're not overloading this. Now, all of this is great talk for when we're using it, but the reason you'd want to go with the Stealth is because you can remove it. And that's really simple to do. Just the turn of a knob allows me to drop this out, and it goes to completely stock looking. The neat thing with this is the handle is going to stay in that position. If I'm not going to be using my receiver for a while, it comes with a rubber cap that you can put in place to keep that nice and clean. And if you're worried about someone twisting the handle and taking your receiver, it has a tumbler and 2 keys included to be able to lock that in place. So when you are ready to put this in, you'll just simply slide this up, hear that click, that handle's going to twist over, knowing that it's locked in place. And then I'm just going to lock this portion in, put the rubber cap over our key tumbler, and now I'm ready to load up my accessories. Now, something that you do want to take in consideration is going to be the ground clearance or lack thereof on this car. It's already a pretty sporty car that's low to the ground. So this rack receiver at the top of the receiver tube opening to the ground, we're coming in at about 10.5 inches. So not that I worry about this bottoming out, but any of your suspended accessories are going to extend the length of the vehicle. So as you go up an incline, they're going to want to tilt towards the ground. So when choosing accessories, you might want to look at one that maybe has a slightly up shank to give you a little bit more clearance. That way you don't have to bottom out. Or just keep in mind when you have those accessories loaded and you're going over large bumps or up a steep incline, that you're going at a nice angle and not bottoming out that accessory while you're just trying to drive around. So seeing the advantage of being able to go to that clean, well, almost no hitch look when not using it, and still being able to get accessories on a vehicle like this really makes the Stealth Hitch a great option. And the instructions are fantastic. They've done a really good job. They're all color. They're very specific of what to do. So if you're somewhat handy, follow the instructions as well as this video during the installation, and you'll be able to get this installed. But that's not to say that this is an easy hitch installation. German cars by nature are very well built. They are a little bit more difficult to pull apart, and in order to get this hitch in place, the whole fascia comes off. That way you can bolt it up to the bumper beam. Beyond that, there's a little bit of trimming required. I think the hardest part is you can't detach this fascia. Otherwise, you'll have to go to a dealership to get it programmed. So you have to kind of slide it over, get your hitch installed, and then put it back. There's a few nuances, but I've done quite a few of these, so I'll give you all the tips and tricks necessary to be able to get this done well. Something that is neat is they give you all the proper hardware to be able to still use your kick panel sensor. So just because you put the receiver there doesn't mean that you lose that function. So that's really neat. With that being said, if you watch the video and decide this is more than you want to tackle yourself, you don't have the time, the place, the tools, or even the want to do it, I totally understand. This is not necessarily an easy hitch install. With that being said, if you need someone to install it and you still want to take your Audi out and have your bike rack with you, you can find someone close to you by using our dealer locator. You'll simply put in your zip code and you'll find a list of shops near you so they can install the hitch and you can be out on the road enjoying your adventures in no time. With that being said, stick around. Let's take a look at that installation. Before we get started on our installation, the basics is going to be the fascia coming off and us getting our bumper beam taken down for that hitch to go in place. Now, with that being said, Audis are very well made, but they can be very difficult to pull apart, and we're gonna be taking off quite a bit of stuff. So have a nice organized spot to keep all of your hardware, and when we get to the point to pull the fascia off, this is a vehicle you do not wanna separate the harness that's on the back of the fascia. So I would highly recommend having a nice safe spot to set it off to the side. That way it's not gonna get damaged in the process. So getting started though, we'll open up our trunk and we're gonna wanna get our taillights removed. So the first thing we have is this plastic cover. And I'm gonna use a trim panel tool here. That way we can pry here and not really have to worry too much about breaking anything. So just take your time. There's gonna be snaps along this edge. So we really want to make sure to kind of pry this and not chip anything in the process. So you can see these small little nubs here are kind of what bite into that. And then from here, this should just kind of slide out. And that's going to give us access to the 2 T25 Torx screws. So we'll get those loosened up and taken out. And then our taillight, it will have some alignment tabs here, so I'm gonna be careful not to drop these screws, so I'll just kind of hold this in place. But as we kind of pull straight back, that should get our taillight out. There we are. So alignment tab is on this back side. You should be able to just pull that out by hand. And then from here, we'll just separate the taillight. So push down on this tab, get this pulled back, and then I'll set our taillights aside. We can now repeat the same step on the other side of the vehicle. Now on each wheel well, we're going to be removing 4 screws that are all T25, and they're inset a little bit, so we're going to be removing the inner fender liner here. So 1, 2, and 3. Those are kind of tricky to get to. I can get them with my electric ratchet, but you may have to get a little creative with your tools. And once we get those ones, we'll be able to peel back the fender liner, and then there's going to be one more that's attaching the rear fascia to the rear quarter panel. So let's get these taken out first. And just holding that wheel well liner back, you'll find that T25 that's up here is vertical, so we'll get this one removed. Now, if your Audi is a 2024 like ours is today, it should be very similar, but the instructions break this down over a wide range of years. So if yours is different, just refer to the instructions. It'll be slightly different under here. On ours today, we have a T25 Torx screw that's right here. And then there's this 10mm plastic nut. And we'll get that taken off, and then we're going to just repeat on the other side. Now we're going to head into our trunk compartment, and you'll have panels on each side. On the driver's side, we're just going to turn this, and we should be able to get this to pop out. There we go. looks as if ours is wanting to stay attached here. It looks like it just kind of folds down. The carpet is part of it, so we're going to leave it like this. Main thing is we can gain access. Now on the other side we have another compartment as well, and this one has 12-volt power, so we'll want to get this pulled out. So here's your knob. Should be just a quarter turn here. And there we go. Just a quick little pop like that. And then as far as the 12 volt, to get that separated, we have a tab that's on this back side here. That slides out. We're also going to remove our cargo cover here. And it looks like there is a plastic snap on the back side here that I'm going to pry up, and that way we can get this completely removed. Now, depending on what trim of vehicle you have, you may have some plastics that goes on top of this threshold. And what we're going to try to do is get this removed. There's going to be hardware behind it that we need to gain access to. In ours today, there's plastic clips that we need to remove to get the scuff panel off. So in order to do that, we have this brace on this styrofoam that has all of our spare tires and tools. Just two 13mm nuts hold this bracket in place. So we'll get those taken off. This bracket should come up. We'll hold on to the nuts here. And then from here, we should be able to pull out the styrofoam with all of its components. Now I realized that they run the straps for the compressor through this styrofoam here, so you are going to want to take that strap off, get the compressor out of the way. Now, I mentioned Audis are very well put together and a little bit more difficult to pull apart. And this is one of those steps where it's kind of a nuisance here. But what you're going to need to do, this strap that goes around the compressor, the clip is too big to fit through the styrofoam. So we actually need to remove the strap. And there's just a 10mm nut that is on a stud here. So we're going to get that removed. And then ideally we pull the strap out. It might make it a little more difficult for reinstallation, but this seems to be necessary to get this styrofoam removed. So with that out, I'll pull the strap up over that stud, and now we can get this removed and pull the whole thing out. This is going to give us a lot more space to be able to get this threshold out. And originally I thought there's a plastic clip holding it in. There's a stud that it kind of forks around that keeps that aligned down there. So it looks as if we need to pull straight up. And that's where it's hooked onto there. Just give it a little bit of pressure here. And as you pull up, we have clips that are located here, 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 and here. And if they do pop off, you are going to want to get them taken back out. So it seems like they should go on this plastic. So if that's the case, if yours didn't come off nice and smooth, not to worry. You'll just pinch these to where you can get that clip. Now there's going to be 4 10mm nuts that we're going to be removing, and these are on very long studs, so you want a deep well 10mm socket. The first two that we're going to be attacking, when we remove that threshold panel, you're going to find that there's 2 circles here. And I would recommend putting a flashlight so you can see exactly where you're working, because these can drop all the way into the abyss if you're not careful. So there's a portion at the end that's not threaded. So what I'd recommend doing first is get it loose and have it rest on that stud, and either use a pair of needle nose, or I really recommend using a magnet to be able to get those to come off without dropping them. So we'll tackle these first 2. And then the next one we're going to be doing is right here where the fascia bolts up to the body. So where we remove these panels in the back, I can reach back here, and it's going to be very similar stud nut combination. So we're going to get all 4 of those removed. Now head to each corner where the bumper kind of meets the taillight pocket, and there's a plastic push pin. What I'll do is I'm going to put a flathead screwdriver in, and then once I'm kind of underneath it, try to twist. These can be a little bit tricky here, so just take your time. And if you have a trim panel tool, that might help. It's just tough because the fascia kind of goes up and we don't want to scratch that. And it's hard to get leverage on this. So I'm going to try to pull the fascia back a little so I can get this pulled out. And there's going to be one on each side, so we'll get these taken out. And you're going to really want some leverage here to pry. There is a spot that's kind of got an indent, but even just prying on this, you'll see pretty quickly that they're fairly long. So once you get that initial snap out of here, the whole thing should pull up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get ready to pull the fascia off. So I'm going to just run painter's tape along the edge of the rear quarter panel and the fascia. It's really going to make sure that we don't scratch everything in the process of taking it off, but also putting it back on. So I'll do that on both sides, and now is a great time to get something set up. Generally, when we remove these fascias, they cannot be unplugged, so we slide them off to the driver's side. And it's only going to be temporary because the actual hitch install, pretty simple. Just getting the fascia off can be tricky. Now we're going to begin to pull the fascia off, and we'll start on the passenger side. And when you pull this out, there's a series of clips here, but the plastic that runs along the bottom edge, it's real thin, and it kind of interlocks. So what I'd recommend doing is peeling back the fender liner and reach back, and there's a plastic that's, like I said, it's just kind of inset there. So pull that back first, and then from here, just keep pressure along this edge. And we should be able to get this to pop off. So again, I'm going to pull back on the plastic, make sure that's not holding on. There we go. And as I pull this off, this is that plastic edge. They just kind of go around the nubs where the hardware goes in. So just peel this back a little bit. And then as you start to pull this, you'll just work your way around the edges. This will start to come out. And I do recommend having an extra set of hands. That way we can get this all set aside. So I got Scott to help me along with this, and I have a cart set up. I raised our car up to make it a little bit easier. So as we pull this back, once these clips are undone, those studs that we removed those nuts from are going to want to slide out. So you'll see that we do have that electrical connection on the driver's side here, but that grommet can pull out just a little bit to give us some room to work here. But again, we cannot unplug this. So getting a cart set up, the main thing is you know, it may be right behind the vehicle. You can see we have our bumper beam exposed. That's where we're going to be doing the hitch work. So really, as long as you have this out of the way, it's only going to be a short period while we get that hitch on. So I'm going to set mine like this, and that should be good. Our hitch is going to replace our factory impact bar, and that comes along with the hardware that we're going to remove. We're not going to be using that. So once you get this pulled off, you can hold on to it. If you were to ever go back and replace or take the hitch off, you can discard it. It's kind of up to you. Now the way that these are attached is 3 16-millimeter bolts, and then you'll see a stud that goes in. So if you reach back behind there, there's going to be another nut. So we'll get all of these removed, and then we can get our bumper beam set aside, and then we can really start getting the hitch in. Now you're going to want to grab your hitch, the plates, as well as the hardware, and I have my split washer and flat washers all set up. And what we're going to do is put the plate behind the hitch, and then I'm going to feed hardware into at least one of these. Now the stud is going to help us, the factory one that we have there. So that's going to make it a little bit easier for this to slide on, but we do have to do this kind of in one go here. So you might want that extra set of hands here just to get everything aligned. So the plate should match up with the shape of the hitch, so just get that in place. And then we'll slide that bottom one through the stud, so it's at least going to help support it. And then from here, I'm just going to get a few threads started on each side, and that'll hold that hitch up, allowing us to get the other ones in place. Once all of your hardware is started by hand, we can snug this down. We're going to be using a 17-millimeter socket. You don't need to get too crazy because immediately we're going to come with a torque wrench to get it properly torqued down. Something you're going to want to do though is try to get this as centered up as possible. There's a seam kind of on this weather stripping, so just make sure it's pretty well centered up. There's not a ton of wiggle room one side to the other, but you do want to make sure that you're happy with the placement. So I'll get these snug down, and then I'll grab my torque wrench and torque them down. And the torque settings are going to be found in the instruction manual, and this is going to be a really important step because when you're using weld nuts, you can definitely overdo these and then really cause damage, and no longer will your hitch be nice and secure. So if you need a torque wrench, you can get one here at eTrailer. You can generally go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. Again, it's going to be important to make sure that structurally this is going to be okay. And for our next step, to get the receiver block in place, you're going to want a pretty large torque wrench. So if you are renting one, I'd recommend maybe getting a 1/2-inch torque wrench so you can get high enough torque values for the receiver block. Now we'll grab the receiver block, and you're also going to want to grab this piece of paper that's in your instructions, because this is going to allow you to record the key code. And that way, if you lose the keys to lock and unlock this, you can get a replacement. You're going to have the 5-digit code on your key, so just take that number, mark that down, and that way you'll have it. Again, if you ever do lose those keys. Also, the plug that you have here, this is really nice to keep handy, because if you don't have your hitch receiver in, you can put this plug in, and that's going to keep water and grime from building up and just keep everything working nice and smooth. So to get this in place, we'll take off the hardware that's already kind of pre-started on here, and we're just doing the hitch receiver. We're not doing the towing package today. If you are doing that, you're going to have separate safety chain loop plates that you're going to need to put in place. The instructions of Stealth Hitch are really, really good, so just follow those along if you are doing the wiring. So make sure you have the twist handle on the passenger side, so your key tumbler should be on the driver. We'll pass these through, and then I'll start these by hand. And to get these snug down, nylon lock nut is you're probably going to want an impact for this, just to save you a little bit of elbow grease of cranking this down. But it's going to be a 15/16 socket and wrench combo. Now, if you don't have a socket that's deep enough to be able to get this all tightened down, you could just put this on the nut side. I try to tighten on the nut side first, though, and if you can go all the way that way, go for it. But yeah, we'll get these bolts snugged, and then torque settings are going to be found in the instruction manual. So just as before, we'll get them all torqued down. Now maneuver your fascia around to where you can get it to a height to gain access to the inside here, because the hands-free liftgate, you are going to retain this, so that's really cool, but we do need to trim out a section, and this is located right here. So we're going to move this out of the way. It's just this cable, it snaps in, and just kind of pull this back until you get here. Now with the cable out of the way, we're going to be trimming a small portion to get this plastic piece off. Eventually we are going to be cutting out a larger section. I'm going to be using an oscillating tool. This works really well to get clean cuts. If you have a Dremel, that's also going to work just fine. And so we're going to retain these clips on the bottom. So we want to go to the inside of that, and I'm going to cut the plastic. And this piece is just kind of glued down. Once you cut through there, this will separate out, and you should have this piece. And at this point, I'm going to mark out where we're going to cut. So we'll come back in just a second here, and I'll show you exactly where we're going to be cutting out. So to trim this out, I'm using painter's tape just to give me a guide. But originally, I use a paint marker to find the center point. So using these tabs, I measured that out, found the center, and then where we're going to be cutting is 13 inches wide. So 6.5 inches each way, put me here. And then up top, it's going to be 3 1/8 inch up. So I measured that, and then have 11 inches across up top. So again, painter's tape is just to give us a nice visual representation of where we're cutting, and it'll make it a little bit cleaner. So, put So with that trimmed out, if you want to go through with a file, now's a good time to get all those burrs knocked down. And once it's reinstalled, I'll probably go back and just clean it up from the outside, because that's what you're going to see. It's really hard to do with this having to be attached. But clean this whole section. If you want to put some alcohol on there, that's going to make this to where we can get some adhesive to stick to it, because we're going to reinstall our hands-free liftgate cable. And we have these stick-on spots that way we can zip tie it up. So I'll get these placed, but it should, you can refer to the instruction manual, kind of loop through here, and that way you still have access to it. So I'll get this all zip tied up, and then from here, really all that's left to do is to reinstall. If you're just doing the rack receiver, you probably noticed in the instructions, if you're doing the wiring, which we are not today, there's quite a few more steps involved, but we're going to get this in place. We'll get everything put back together. And once you have everything reinstalled, make sure that you have clearance on this opening. So if you need to trim a little bit extra, you can totally do that. And we're going to test our receiver to make sure that it's working. So what we'll do is pull back the boot that's on the tumbler. If it's not already unlocked, you can grab the key. And once that's unlocked, it'll pop out. So at that point, you can grab this handle, twist it back, and it's going to lock in position. You'll grab your receiver and push this up. That handle should pop over, meaning that this is latched in. You can then lock this in place, put your cap back on, load up your accessories, put in your pin and clip, and you're ready to hit the road. If this video helped you get your Stealth Hitch installed on your Audi, I hope it was a huge help. Please let me know if there's anything that I could have done different in the video, or something that you liked that helped you get it done. Our goal is to always make the best videos possible for neighbors like you, so you have the tools necessary to be able to do this yourself. And with that being said, if you did the installation yourself, send us some pictures. What are you loading onto this? Do you have a bike rack, a cargo carrier, or did you get the towing kit to pull a small jet ski or something along those lines? Either way, we love to see neighbors out using our products out in the wild. Beyond that, thanks for joining us and watching the video. My name's Brad, and thank you for watching a look and installation of a Stealth Hitch receiver on a 2024 Audi A5.